Good evening, everyone, Lemonheads and all streamers. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the Don Lemon Show, our Live at 5 show where you get to weigh in. So we're happy that you're here. If you watched my show this morning, you know that I feel there are currently 4 women who are at the center of American politics right now. That's Kamala Harris, obviously, Taylor Swift, Laura Loomer, who you may not know, and Jill Stein, which I'm sure you've heard of, right? They are going to be the women, I believe, who are going to help shape the future of the country. Now, listen, I know you think like I'm crazy to mention some of them, but we're going to talk about it. Today, I'm going to talk about Kamala Harris, Taylor Swift, Laura Loomer, and again, Jill Stein. And I have the perfect guest and an old friend. Ana Marie Cox is a political columnist and a culture critic whose writing has appeared in the Washington Post, in Sports Illustrated. I said the Washington Post already.
And New York Times.
The New York Times. That's what I meant. Okay, the New Republic.
Those places. Yeah. Oh, I mean, well, I'm working on a book and I have my own like podcast / webcast.
Yeah, your podcast, 90 Days with
Ana Marie Cox, and it's an election countdown. We started 90 days ago. Someone has said like maybe that wasn't the best thing to name it, but I don't care.
I'm glad. Now, you see why we have Ana Marie Cox on, right? Because she is amazing. I love her. She's going to be energetic and interesting, and we like that. So thank you for weighing in, and feel free to cut me off anytime and tell me, Don, you're making up bullshit or you're crazy or whatever, okay? I like that. So our topics are, we're going to talk about the debate. We're going to talk about post-debate polling. We're going to talk about Trump's racist Haitian conspiracy, Trump's press conference today, and of course, Taylor Swift. Okay. So you doing okay?
Yeah, I'm better than I was like in June. I mean, I think everyone else, especially folks who've been covering politics as long as we have, like, in my lifetime, there has not been a single election that didn't have a Biden, a Clinton, or a Trump, or a Bush on the ticket.
Oh, wow.
Like, those are the 4 names that have appeared on every ballot for like the last 25, ever since I could vote, right? And so this election was, even to someone who cares a lot about politics, like not very exciting. So changing it up got me excited again. That's the reason I started the podcast just 90 days before the election. And I spent a long time in Minnesota. So I actually voted for Governor Walz. It's on my resume. Yeah.
So I don't know what they call them. Are you a Waltzy? I don't know what that is.
I don't know. We'll go with Waltz head.
All right.
Like wall climber. No, that doesn't sound quite right.
No. You're a window to the walls. Okay, let's go. Yeah. So, as I talked about yesterday, the American people have made it very clear that they believe in Kamala Harris and that they believe that she handily won that debate with Donald Trump. In a national poll from this morning, a national poll today, it's the Morning Consult, Harris now leads Trump 50%, Anna, to 45%. That's her largest lead ever in the Morning Consult poll. And what's more, this national Ipsos Reuters poll has Harris up 47 to 42%. So right off the bat, what'd you make of her performance? What'd you make of the handshake, of her baiting him to, the references to Wharton and then the crowd size. And then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, John McCain.
I had such low expectations because I'm used to being beaten down because I tend to be on the left. I thought she knocked it out of the park. I mean, it was a little embarrassing, even as someone who plans on voting for her, quite frankly, to see some of the folks on the cable news kind of like go gaga about it. Yeah. But I'm sympathetic because it was great television. Number one, you appreciate that. You and I appreciate that, both as creators and makers, right? Mm-hmm. Creators and viewers. So it's great television. And, she hasn't always been the best at public speaking. She hasn't always presented a completely polished or a steady appearance in her times in front of a podium or behind a podium. And she was in prosecutor mode and she was completely in control of the whole thing. And I don't think we can discount the fact that it was a woman of color up there. Like, there is something very powerful about seeing her behind the podium and then having her excel to that degree and having Trump just become unglued. Like, just, you could see,
you could see it happening as soon as she talked about Wharton and because he went to Wharton, so she knew what she was doing. She's like, I'm going to say Wharton is saying that your proposal is going to add this much to the deficit and the debt, and then she said, and your crowd sizes and John McCain, and then she's like, oh, it's like, oh, okay, she's needling him, and then he unraveled. Now, are you surprised at all that Donald Trump is refusing to debate her again? And do you think she should actually sort of goad him into another debate? Would it be good for her?
I think it couldn't hurt.
Really?
I think I'm a little surprised that he's not willing to do it because he is so easily goaded, which means even he must realize that he lost or that it didn't look good. One of the two. I mean, I wanted to say about the performance. So she is a prosecutor, and what I saw in that performance, and what I think she could do again, is if you've seen a courtroom thriller, right? Like
Mhm.
when the prosecutor like says the little things that gets the person, it's like I ordered the code red. That is what happened to Trump on Tuesday night. I think she could do it again. I think he's helpless in that regard. I think that he has. I mean, I know you want to talk about Laura Loomer. I think she's a good example of how Trump has surrounded himself by sycophants and extremist sycophants, and he has lost the thread of like what even is close to normal, right? How even to begin to present yourself in a coherent way. That's why he like just kind of almost is just doing half thoughts when he talks because he's expecting people to fill in the blanks because
Yeah.
they are also conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, and he just sort of rambles, and he can sort of say anything because he doesn't have to be factual. This is what Rhino in the chat is saying, that she emasculated Trump, and he looked so pathetic. I mean, I think he looked like a beaten down sap, says Casual Observer in the chat. So I think a lot of people will agree with that, and I think you will too. But I just want to move on because we don't have much time with you, and I want to get as much out of you as possible. Miss America Needs Journalist T-shirt. By the way, I dig it. I have one that has I have that T-shirt, and I have one that has the First Amendment on it. So freedom of the press. Okay, so listen, I'm sure everyone. I want to talk about this horrible story that broke this afternoon. I'm sure everyone is aware by now of Trump's crazy racist conspiracy theory about Haitians eating cats and dogs in Springfield, Ohio. It has gone viral. People were wondering, like, what the hell is he talking about? After yesterday, Anna, there was a bomb threat at the Springfield City Hall. Today, 2 Springfield City School District elementary schools were evacuated, and a middle school was closed after bomb threats against the buildings were made, according to school officials. A copy of the bomb threat acquired by the USA Today disparaged Springfield's Haitian community and referenced false claims spread by Trump and J.D. Vance that immigrants were eating pets and wildlife. What's your reaction to that, Anna?
I think, like a lot of people, I was a little bit, and in fact, as Harris was at the debate, like amused and incredulous at this. Like it is such a wild thing to say, but
Mhm.
I think it's important, and as those news stories have shown, that this has a real world valence, and it is an incitement to violence. It
Mhm.
really is,
Yeah.
and that I think those of us who find it even a little bit amusing, there's a part of me that once I like leaning into the they're weird stuff,
Yep.
because I think that they're weird. I really do. And I like leaning into defanging by uh making fun of, right? Ridicule can
Yeah.
defang, but I think that this is a case where we need to be very careful, I think, in the media, as well as people who might want Trump to lose, in making it a joke, making it a meme, making it something that is to be simply mocked, because there are people whose lives are in danger now.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're a writer. You know Jamel Bowie over at the New York
Yep.
Times. He's a similar sentiment that you have. I want to play what Jamel says. He said it's funny, but it can be deadly serious. Here it is.
So on the one hand, I think that they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, eat the cat, eat the cat meme is very funny. I think it's hilarious. But I also find myself worried that people aren't taking seriously enough what Trump and Vance are doing here. What they're doing is called a blood libel. It
Mm.
is smearing a group of people with the accusation that they are killing, in the case of Jews in medieval Europe, killing um, children in the case of Haitian immigrants in 2024 in the United States, killing pets and eating them, using them for some malign purpose. And the purpose and the point of a blood libel is to incite violence. There's no other point to it. There's no other reason to do it. The point of it is to incite violence, to drive people to commit violence against others out of fear, anger, and hatred. And J.D. Vance, who got the ball rolling with this on Monday, Donald Trump, who broadcasted it to 67 million people on Tuesday, Trump and Vance, who have doubled down on it on Wednesday and Thursday. What they are doing is trying to incite violence against Haitian immigrants in Springfield, and really Haitian immigrants anywhere, and really anyone who people might think is a Haitian immigrant. That's the whole thing about these libels, about these
So
smears.
we'll end it there. So
that-
listen, I just want to say that he made the point. It is blood libel. It is very dangerous. And Trump and Vance, mostly Trump, Vance is also, spreading this thing. They're terrorizing this town. And it's kind of akin to you remember the Hillary Clinton pizzeria thing and, and all that, but they're terrorizing this poor town and it could turn dangerous.
Yeah. I'm reminded a little bit of the other kind of ridiculous thing he said, which is they're giving transgender surgeries to illegal, immigrants in prisons, because there is a similarly dangerous thing that the right has been spreading, which is this idea that your kids are being transed in local hospitals. And there were bomb threats to these hospitals to shut them down, that shut down care to children's hospitals, I think one in Texas. And so, it is violence is kind of an undergirding this entire stuff, no matter what kind of like funny memes they might be doing. I think, in fact, it's important to look at, I've followed Donald Trump on Instagram. I'm sorry. But he's been posting these AI generated photos of himself with cats. And it's like he's trying to, I don't think he'd ever get near an actual cat. That's why I think they're AI generated. And they're turning it into like a fun thing, right? And I think we need to pay attention to that, because that means they want us to not think about the part that is a blood libel. I also want to point out that I think they think they've gotten something here because of the whole, well, don't they care about cats? They're childless cat ladies, so shouldn't they care about cats? And obviously, like, people do care about their animals, right?
Yeah.
But it is a weird, like, trying to weaponize the cat lady thing almost. I say that as a proud childless cat lady, by the way. But
I'm a proud childless dog
yeah.
dude.
I have a dog as well. I'm a child. I'm bipedal, is what I like to say.
This is why we love Ana Marie Cox. And listen, Trump was asked about this school bomb threat at a press conference in California, okay? And his response was, I think, nutty. He vowed to deport the Haitians in Springfield, who are there legally, by the way, to Venezuela. He's going to deport them to Venezuela, not back to Haiti, but to Venezuela. Watch.
No, I will, maybe Springfield, maybe Aurora, maybe both. We'll go there. I can say this, we will do large deportations from Springfield, Ohio. Large deportations. We're going to get these people out. We're bringing them back to Venezuela. He told Biden he's not accepting anybody back. They moved all their criminals, not all of them, but the rest are moving in now.
What the hell is he talking about? What's your response to that?
I think a problem with Trump is that his policies are mostly vaporware, right? Like, they are actually like not things you can do. He doesn't lack, there is no apparatus by which the president can just order. I mean, I guess you could militarize everything. He could literally like become a dictator and do this, but there's not the policy apparatus to do this. Like, we discovered this with Build the Wall, right? Also, he can't fund IVF. He can't do funding for, government funding for IVF, like he claimed, a couple weeks ago. What's important
He's the best,
about,
by the way, with IVF. I'm the best. Anyway,
he's the fertilizer. I think he really should have stayed away. I mean, clearly he couldn't remember what IVF stood for, but with putting Haitian, immigrants on a bus or whatever to, like, I don't know how he'd get them to Venezuela. Sometimes I think he can't really even name that many countries, right? Like, that's Venezuela just came to him. So there is this problem that his policy proposals are just ludicrous, right? And so there's a tendency to kind of be like, well, could that happen or not? Like, is that weird to suggest? I think what we need to pay attention to, again, is the violence inherent in those proposals, is the way that he creates a permission structure for people to commit violence. He's saying, we hate these people. We want to get them out of the country. And it's just not much of a push to get people to act on that. Like once they're revved up, right? Like that's one of the reasons why talking about trans people in such dismissive ways or saying they don't exist is also such a problem, because you're like creating this atmosphere of like, oh, they're not real people. They don't deserve the same kind of treatment as everyone else. So if you're already just, inclined to like treat people badly, like it just gives you even more permission to do so.
There are people in the comments who are making fun of it, saying what they think. Emmanuel N says irritable bowel syndrome, like that's what he was thinking. Kleiber says IVF. Oh, I know her. Yeah. So listen, so we talked about Kamala Harris, which we'll talk about more. Let's talk about Laura Loomer. You know her, I'm sure you're aware of her, and she's a little nutty. Right. So I want to play a shot of Trump defending his decision to keep Laura Loomer as a political advisor. This was at that same press conference. Okay. She's a loony right winger. She was an influencer. Right. So you know all about her. She says all the craziest things, but he's defending her. Here it is. She's on the plane the other day, by the way.
Go ahead.
What would you say to your Republican colleagues or your allies who are concerned about your close relationship with Laura Loomer?
Well, I don't know what they would say. Laura's been a supporter of mine, just like a lot of people are supporters, and she's been a supporter of mine. She speaks very positively of the campaign. I'm not sure why you asked that question, but Laura is a supporter. I don't control Laura. Laura has to say what she wants. She's a free spirit. Well, I don't know. I mean, look, I can't tell Laura what to do. Laura's a supporter. I have a lot of supporters. But I don't know what exactly you're referring to. That's okay. Yeah, please. I just don't know. Laura's a supporter. I don't know. She is a strong person. She's got strong opinions, and I don't know what she said, but that's not up to me. She's a supporter. Please.
Okay, she's a supporter. Please let me just remind people, Anna. I want to remind the audience that this is a woman who is too crazy and racist, even for Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene said her rhetoric is too far, which is just shocking, I'm sure, to just about everyone, even in MAGA land. A woman who said that 9/11 was an inside job, Anna. A woman who said that all school shootings are fake. And Trump says she's wonderful. She's a free spirit. And apparently she helped him with debate prep, and because she's the one who came up with this whole Springfield eating cats conspiracy theory, and she's traveling around with him on his plane. So what do you think of that?
Well, notably, she also chained herself to the Twitter headquarters and with a Star of David on her chest because she was comparing being banned from Twitter to the Holocaust.
Oh my God.
So she is, so I'm personally kind of crazy. I have some mental health diagnoses. So I don't want to call her crazy because crazy is like one thing. Crazy is something that is treatable. Crazy is something that we have like great meds for crazy, right? She's a hate monger. She is off the deep end of bigotry. That is what she is, right? Like you can call her conspiracy theory and everything, but the problem with Trump listening to her isn't that she's nutty or loony. Like I have an aunt who's loony, right? I think the problem with listening to her is that she has these hateful and quasi-violent ideas. So, but let's listen to what Trump said, which is how many times I don't drink anymore, but like if I drank every time you said supporter, like I would be back in rehab. Like it's only thing that matters to him. It's the absolute only thing that matters to him about her. I believe that he might not know all the extreme things that she said, right? Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's why he chose JD Vance, right? Like, he didn't read the vetting on this guy. Like, he just liked that Vance completely ate crow and came back to be, went from calling him Hitler to calling him like the leader we need today.
Well, the folks in the comments think that she's mentally unstable, that and Tam Jewell says she's a QAnon queen. I mean, her conspiracies are up there with them. And they're calling her other names. That Loomer hates pets says is Dislav none. I don't know where they come up with these names here. And Ishanti says she should be called Laura Looney. I usually don't like to call people names, but
Again,
So-
I'm just going to say, don't call her crazy. Plenty good people out there are crazy.
Yeah, and I
Like-
have a loony aunt too, or loony relatives, and I like them. I like loony people who are harmless loony, right? Or you want to call them ditzy, or a goober,
Right. Just
whatever
a
it is.
little
Right?
eccentric, let's
Yeah.
say. That's what
Yeah.
when they're rich, you call them eccentric.
Yeah.
But she's hateful. Like
Yes.
that's what she is.
All right, let's talk about someone who's not hateful. Okay, I want to talk about Taylor Swift, another important woman right now. By now, I'm sure that you've heard that she endorsed Kamala Harris after the debate. You saw her her Instagram. There's a full screen, and I just want to read the post. It says, "Like many of you, I watched the debate tonight. If you haven't already now, is a great time to do your research on issues at hand and stances these candidates take on topics that matter to you the most. As a voter, I make sure to watch and read everything I can about their proposed policies and plans for this country." And so she talked about the AI thing that Donald Trump did with her, and then she went on to talk about being transparent and about her actual plans as a voter. And she said, "I would be casting my vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in 2024. I'm voting for Kamala Harris because she fights for the rights and causes that I believe in," and on and on and on. And as you know, and then she ended up signing "With love and hope, Taylor Swift, childless cat lady." Okay. So as I said, you wrote a piece about this endorsement. Walk us through your thoughts on this, Ana Marie Cox.
Well, I was fortunate enough to get Beto O'Rourke on the phone, or rather on my podcast. And he is the person in the country who might actually have the most relevant experience to being endorsed by Taylor Swift, because he was endorsed by Beyonce when he was running in his race against Ted Cruz. And I think the difference is instructive. Number one, Beyonce endorsed him on election day, which I will not criticize Beyonce because
You thought it was a little late.
I value my life, right?
Yes.
But it's a little late. And also she was kind of subtle about it. She wore like a Beto hat in her Instagram. And then just like her Instagram post was about how important it is to vote. And I think what we can look at the difference here is Taylor Swift, number one, this is mid-September. This is plenty before even the most conservative states have their registration close. The earliest you can close your registration by law is 30 days before the election. We have a good month before that happens, even in Texas, where they do close it 30 days before the election. So that is a huge and smart, and I have to think Taylor, meticulous, perfectionist Taylor, knew what she was doing. And the other thing is, unlike a lot of celebrity endorsements, she laid out her thinking point by point by point.
Mm-hmm.
And she made stakes real.
And I think she was really smart when she went on the VMAs, because she said, well, I'll let her say it for you. I thought this was a really smart comment, the way that she did it in front of a huge audience on television. Watch this.
To the fans, I'm always trying to figure out a way to say thank you to you for making my life what it is, for making the Eras Tour what it has become, for making the Tortured Poets Department what it has become. That's all you guys for doing that and for voting for this award. So thank you to MTV for giving me this opportunity to thank the fans, to thank you for what you've done. And the fact that this is a fan-voted award and you voted for this, I appreciate it so much. And if you are over 18, please register to vote for something else that's very important coming up, the 2024 presidential election. I love you all so much. Thank you for this moment.
Yeah, very smart. Okay, I promise you I'm going to let you weigh in on this, but just to help bolster what you're going to say, I just want to play some of this clip from CBS to go along with that. What happened after her endorsement on debate night, and then after last night, CBS discussing what went on, what has happened in the country. Here it is.
What are you seeing from Taylor Swift in her endorsement, especially in terms of driving civic participation?
Yeah, so I think this is a question a lot of us had after we saw the endorsement. I think a lot of people expected it was coming, but the question of how much of an impact will she have beyond just the excitement, the likes on Instagram, will it translate into voter registration? So we can see some of the back end data in terms of the data that is coming and hitting off the voter file that we build. And what we saw was this really massive increase. We're calling it the Swift effect now because it's really unlike anything I've seen. We're seeing a 400 or 500.
Oh, what happened? No, I wanted to keep, I was just commenting.
Increase
Okay.
in people coming and trying to register to vote. immediately following the debate and in that period after Taylor Swift posted on Instagram. And what's really remarkable about that is usually you'll see these increases and they kind of fade away. In this case, we've seen it continue through the last 2 days into today.
How so?
Well, you know, I'm told, I have 2 teenage daughters, that she was on the Video Music Awards on MTV last night. Apparently, she put out another pitch for people to register to vote. And so we're seeing this continued spike of 4 or 5 times what you would regularly see. So we're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood 9,000 to 10,000 people per hour just hitting our system. That's not
There you
indicative of everything, but it's a lot of it.
Okay.
And what does this mean?
Go
Yeah.
ahead, Ana. I mean, that's incredible.
It's huge. I mean, to be clear, just in case anyone is watching, is in a state like mine where they make it really hard to vote, only a portion of those voters are going to be able to register online. In Texas, you cannot register to vote online, right? They make it really hard in a lot of places that are worried about going purple or going blue. They're going to make it especially hard to vote. However, this is incredible. This is unprecedented. This could lead to the largest spike in youth participation since, you know, the last couple of elections. I mean, young people, I think, like the truism when you and I were getting involved in politics and covering politics was that it was really hard to get to young people to vote, right? I mean, I think we're actually seeing a generation, they're not desensitized. They are sensitized, right? Like, this is the Sandy Hook generation. This is the Parkland generation. This is a generation that has grown up under nothing but Trump. Here in Texas, there are young people registering like never before. In fact, that same research group, and in Texas, you cannot, when you register to vote, it is without party ID. However, there are ways to statistically model who's registering, right? And in Texas, the advantage in party registration appears to have swung from like 11 points Republican to 12 points Democrat. That is unprecedented. That is enormous. And that is driven by young voters. And one more thing, you talk about those polls. If you've never voted before, you are statistically invisible to a pollster. Like, they're just not going to and also you're not going to answer your phone if you're under the age of like, well, I don't answer my phone. Your booker called me and I didn't answer the phone. Like, no one answers the phone. But these young people surely never answer a phone. And a lot of them never have had a landline, never even thought about having a landline. So I think things could be swinging in Harris's direction in a way that we don't have a feel for in any way. Like, I think things could surprise us, but I'm afraid to say that. I was burned by 2016. You probably were as well.
Well, I wasn't. I actually, don't get mad, but I actually predicted that Donald Trump would win.
As soon as I said that, I kind of remembered.
Yeah, I predicted it. I wasn't happy about it, and look, then it was just I couldn't. I'm not going to tell you who I voted for then, but I mean, obviously, I'm an independent. Donald Trump is crazy, so you can probably figure out who that was. But so I wasn't supporting anyone, but I had this feeling that he was going to win. And, I think I told people I would open up every section of the newspaper, right? Real estate, business, politics, books, everything. And it was all Donald Trump. Right. And then he was going on every single show that he could get on, in his bed or on the toilet or whatever he was doing it. And he would just call in. And Hillary Clinton was just being very particular about who she would do interviews with and who she would do press with. And I think that he just sort of dominated her in the exposure and the press area. OK, so I tend to agree with your assessment. But let's see, cautiously, I'm just being cautious about how I feel about it. Okay, so listen, I want to talk about Jill Stein. Jill Stein, people believe that she was a spoiler in 2016. They don't understand why she's in the race. She has never won a race. She's run for governor. She's run for president. She's never won a race. There are no Green Party members in a national office. So she would have Angela Rye over on the Breakfast Club question her about it, and also questioned her about how many representatives were there. She didn't know there was 435. She's like 600 and something. So she doesn't know about basic government. Why is Jill Stein doing this? Is she a Russian asset, as I believe AOC and others have claimed? I'm not claiming that, but they have. What do you think?
I can't say anything for sure. It certainly is implausible behavior. Like it is the behavior of someone who's either not right in a relationship to reality or misunderstanding their own place in life in the grand scheme of things, or they're getting paid $400,000 a month, like we know Russians paid some journalists, right? I think she may have been a spoiler. I think it's brave to go on the Breakfast Club. I will say that. If nothing else, I feel like I want to honor that decision on her part. But she got beat up. You know, I mean, she looked foolish. Which, you know, those are really good interviewers. So I'm not that surprised. Being a gotcha with how many members of Congress there are, though, like that's kind of pathetic. That's like. I mean,
really gotcha, right?
yeah, not. I mean, I granted, maybe your average person on the street couldn't answer that question, but most people running for office probably could. I bet Trump couldn't answer that question though. I bet if you ask Trump how many senators there are, I'm not sure if he'd give you an answer.
Oh, 98, 99, 100. Anchorman. So what are you looking forward to as we get closer to election day?
Well, I am interested to see how the polls go. I do think there are reasons to be highly suspect. I think no one's really cracked the code on how to poll in this day and age. But of course, everyone has to remember national polls aren't really that meaningful, right? Electoral college is unfortunately like the world we live in, right? I will point out, if Texas ever manages to flip, then Democrats will never have to worry about winning the electoral college ever again.
Yeah.
So please think about that, everyone.
Well, I'm sure you heard what the governor of North Carolina said, Roy Cooper, is he said that Kamala Harris is leading in North Carolina, and he doesn't believe Donald Trump can win without North Carolina. So there may be some, you know.
I think there's a possibility for a bigger win than we're thinking, but I have been burned personally in making predictions before, and I'm not making predictions. I want to say one other thing, which is I might go on the campaign trail to cover Walls, and that is something I'm very much looking forward to seeing Walls Mintum on the ground.
Walls Mintum. So everyone, in the top of the chat, we have a read Ana Marie Cox's piece about Taylor Swift's endorsement. It's in the New Republic. Make sure you read it. Okay. So thank you, Ana Marie Cox. I appreciate you joining, and I hope you come back. She's as smart as a whip, and she's amazing. We love you. America needs journalists like Ana Marie Cox. Okay. So thanks everyone for joining. I have to get out of here early. You can click off Ana Marie. I'm going to talk to the subscribers just a little bit. So I have to get out a little bit early because I'm in Wilmington. I'm going to a book talk and a book signing, and it's at the public library here. And so that's why I'm in town. I got to ride the Amtrak like President Biden. I'm in his town. So anyway, if you haven't gotten the book yet, get it. I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining Lemonheads. I'm gonna try to join you this weekend for a show, and we'll do a long Q&A, and we'll talk about it since the book is out. We can read. If you guys bring your book, we can talk about it. So we'll just have a good old time. Everybody have a good one. Thank you, Lemonheads. Thank you for being part of the LemoNation, and I'll see you this weekend. Bye-bye.